It's more of that, those wall of time constraints force you to have a whole new style that is not reckless, but it's very aggressive and very direct and very focused. I think it's from growing up hunting in a hard state. I think guys that grew up hunting Iowa would have a hard time coming to the South, southern Michigan, and having success.
What's been like one of the biggest factors for you when it comes to having consistent success, targeting mature bucks, especially as you travel? Because I know you traveled a bunch of states every year.
It's kind of hard to put a finger on it, but this is what is my opinion. I grew up hunting here in Michigan. In the southern lower portion of Michigan, we have 70% of our hunters. So Michigan has a lot of hunters. PA actually has more hunters than Michigan, but in PA, it's spread out across the entire state. Where in Michigan, 70% is in our southern lower, right where I hunt. So it's the ultimate high pressure. Very hard to get on mature deer, very hard to find them. And the guys that do consistently, they live it. They're out there searching, they're grinding, they're putting in just next level effort. And I grew up, this was my training grounds, trying to find mature deer in southern Michigan. We can get some big deer if they can get some age. The hardest thing is just getting the age, like a 2 or 3 year old buck. Sometimes he's the biggest buck in the block, so it's a lot different than other states, but because you have to put in that next level effort, and it's kind of what I grew up doing. The second I crossed state lines into any state, it was a different world. Even states that are considered high pressure, like Ohio, I went to Ohio and I was like, holy cow. Not that I thought it was easy, but there was way better age class, more bucks of age class. So yeah, it had this perception of being easier. It still was very hard to kill a 4 or 5 year old buck, but there was just more of them around. So I think for me personally, the biggest thing was growing up and hunting southern Michigan and learning to be successful here in a very difficult environment, high competition with all these guys. Access is tough. So it's like really the guys that are putting forth the next level, they kind of rise to the top. And you throw them in an environment where there's a little less pressure, a little more bucks. It's like, yeah, you're going to have success, high success, and be real efficient. So, I started going to Ohio, and then I started going to Illinois, and then I drew an Iowa tag. And yeah, I wasn't necessarily going there and killing 180-inch bucks in a couple days, but a lot of times because of my career, I would drive down for the weekend, and I'd have 2 days to hunt, 3 days. So I'm kind of known for that. I work at a school, and I don't get vacation time, so I would travel like kind of weekend warrior type stuff, maybe call in sick on a Monday or whatever. But so a lot of my hunts were those 2 to 4 days. That was like my window. And, I was getting it done at a very high rate on good deer. I wasn't killing, maybe the biggest one in the block, but I was killing nice mature deer out of state on a quick hunt, and that was good enough for me. And then I think too, I think I have more of an aggressive approach. And I'm not a very timid hunter, and I'm not afraid to get in there and mix it up. And I think that lends well to kind of developing your instincts as a hunter. So I've been hunting a long time. I'm 45 years old, but I've hunted 19 states. I've hunted, all across the country, and I don't necessarily even have a style. My style is to be aggressive and to push the envelope, and because that's always been my style, I've made a ton of mistakes, and I probably make more mistakes than anybody in here. Like, don't tell them all that, but I do. I mean, I really do. I bump deer all the time. I make mistakes, but because of my aggressive approach, I'm always pushing the envelope. I create more opportunities. So out of all my friends, and even a lot of the guys here, I get more opportunities at good bucks than most of them because of my style. But I'm also screwing up more. I'm always pushing maybe a little too hard sometimes. But I'm making those opportunities, and inevitably I have some success. And I think too, I've talked about developing your instincts as a hunter. And I was talking to Johnny Stewart about it. Like, him and I both, we really tap into that. Like, I really trust my gut and trust my instincts. And after doing this for 25, almost 30 years, and kind of having that aggressive approach and learning to always go with my gut and follow my instincts, they started to develop over time, and you find yourself making the right decision more often. Like, you know, get a gut feeling to hold up or to push further or to go this way or to, you know, check this ridge or this drainage, or even when to move and when not to move, you know, if you're like ground hunting or whatever. And you just start to tap into those instincts, and then you start to get real effective, make better decisions, and put yourself in the game more. So I think it's a combination of all of that. I think it's from growing up hunting in a hard state. I think guys that grew up hunting Iowa would have a hard time coming to the South, Southern Michigan, and having success. There's a lot of guys, real big name guys, that lived in Michigan and didn't really kill anything that exceptional and moved to Iowa. And now they have a wall full of big bucks. And you don't see the opposite of that. You don't see a lot of these big state guys come to like a PA or an Alabama or a Michigan and do well. But it's a different world. It's a whole different skill set. And it's not taking anything away from those guys, because there's a learning curve there too. And a lot of those guys that are in Iowa, the top hunters, you know, they might not be killing 4 and 5 year old deer. They're killing 6 and 7, you know, or those big trophy bucks. So they got a whole good skill set themselves. But I think it's a combination of growing up in a tough place and having this kind of be my training ground, and then branching out to other states that have a little bit better opportunity, but also kind of favoring that more aggressive approach that creates more opportunities. I always tell guys, if you're too timid and you're too cautious, you're kind of on the outskirts looking in, right? You're playing it safe, and you're never really in there where you need to be, because you're worried about spooking that deer, or I don't want to, you know, I want to make this spot last all season, or I don't want to push the deer out and ruin my whole season. Well, I don't ever think like that. You know, I'm always thinking about, I'm either trying to like gather information through scouting so that when I feel I have everything I need to feel confident in a spot or a sit, and then that's when I dive in, or I'm in there just scouting and kind of hunting as I go and really pushing in there. And if I bump into deer, it's not ideal, but it gave me information that I didn't have otherwise, you know. And a lot of times that has led me to a good spot or chasing a new buck, because I'm in there kind of pushing the envelope. I spook a lot of deer. I do. I bump a lot of deer. I spook a lot of deer, but it's like I'm almost in their face so much, pushing in, I create more encounters for myself. So I'm always on good deer, like all throughout the season. I mean, there's certainly seasons that are tougher than others, and I've had them. But I think my style it creates more opportunities than, say, your average guy that might go in and sit a thicket or sit a funnel or something like that. And I do all that stuff too, but it has to be a very specific reason for me to do that. I need to know a buck's there. I need to know that the timing of the year, like this area heats up or whatever. And if I don't have that, or if it's not that time, I'm in there and I'm pushing and I'm creating opportunities.
What do you think is one of the biggest mistakes that if a guy, say like that Weekend Warrior's doing, that's keeping him or holding him back from being successful, whether it's on his own private farm, whether he's hunting public land, whether he's hunting in leased land, whatever, or he's traveling to hunt? What do you think is holding him back potentially, based off, again, some of the conversations you've had with guys that are trying to figure out how to become more successful and more efficiently successful?
Yeah, I don't know. The answer might be a little different depending on that guy's situation. So I'll tackle it from like an out-of-state perspective, like a weekend warrior that maybe he's traveling from Michigan down to Ohio. I think when you are a weekend warrior, when you are on a time crunch, you are forced to try to make things happen. If you want to be successful, you actually have to kind of force that encounter and that hunt, rather than where if you had 10 days to hunt, you might sit a couple observation sits, and you might sit back and wait and just kind of like maybe stage hunt your way in, depending on the situation. You might be a little more relaxed. You might be more apt to go back at noon and take a nap, eat lunch. But when you have 3 days, like I'm sending you to Illinois on this piece of public ground, or on this permission piece, and I need you to kill a good buck in 3 days. It's like you are on a mission, and the number one thing is like you have to find that deer. You have to find that deer. So like from start to finish, you are on search mode and you are on aggressive mode, because half of that issue is just finding the deer, or finding that buck. So you have to kind of like, I think when you have these time constraints, it almost creates a style. that a lot of guys don't need to have because they have more time. They can play a more patient approach, a more, sit back and wait for the perfect condition approach, where if you got a window, like South Dakota when I went last year, I had 3 days. I drove 19 hours to hunt 3 days. I have 3 days to get it done on a mule deer hunt. Like you're aggressive and you are focused from daylight to dark, and you are in search mode, and you are like, all your senses are tuned in, and you're at the top of the predator food chain, and that's kind of how you have to look at it when you're on that time crunch, and be more aggressive, because you just need that one opportunity. But if I were to wake up late, get out there late to the glassing knob, and glass for an hour, and then it's like, oh man, stretch and eat a little something, and you're taking a break, you're talking to your buddy, it's like, no, you have to stay focused every second. And you're glassing, you're looking for that one little glimpse, one antler, or a deer passing through a little shady pocket, where if you're not looking at that moment, you miss it. So it's more of that those wall of time constraints force you to have a whole new style that is not reckless, but it's very aggressive and very direct and very focused. I can focus and do my best and be a real effective hunter for 3 or 4 days. You start giving me 9-10 days, I start getting worn out. Yeah, I'm maybe I don't want to get up early. I sleep till 9 one day, get out there a little late, or I come in one day for lunch. It's harder. But you do it for 2, 3, 4 days, like, yeah, you can stay like ultra laser focused and you can get things done. But a lot of guys don't have the confidence to go to 19-hour drive to hunt 3 days. Like, I've done that for 20 years. Not 19 hours, but I drive 6 or 9 or 4, with 2 days to hunt. Because the first few times I did that, I came back with a nice Pope and Young type buck. Like, I can do this. I can do this. Like, hunting in Michigan helped me, because it's a hard place to hunt, and now I'm going to easier places to hunt. And I can do this, and I can have fun, and I can kill nice deer. So I just started doing it. You only have 2 days to hunt Illinois. It's almost a $580 tag. And I would buy it and drive down and hunt 2 days, and I'd come back with something really nice. So you can do it, but you need some experience. You need to build up that experience. A new hunter trying to just boom, bounce and bomb to this state and this state, that's a tall order, because you're running into different types of terrain, different types of habitat, different challenges. But if you develop some skills, especially if you hunt in a tough area, you develop some skills, you probably have a good skill set. And if you're getting it done in those areas, you probably have the skill set to go just about anywhere and get on some nice deer. And you can't be afraid to just go and come home empty-handed. I don't care. If I go for a 3-day hunt and I come home empty-handed, I don't care. Nobody cares. Like, I could say that on a podcast, and 15 minutes later, nobody remembers. So nobody cares. But it's more about building your skill set and just having the confidence to do it. And if you never put yourself in that situation, you don't know what you can do. And I think a lot of guys can probably do those types of things, and maybe they don't have that confidence. But it does. It takes a level of commitment. It takes years of experience, and it takes a laser focus when you're there. It's not hang out with buddy, drink beer time. It's like you're there on a mission. It's 3 days. You got 3 days to get it done. That's the way I look at it. But there's other guys that are way more relaxed. They want to go with their buddy and just have a good hunt and just have fun. If they shoot a deer, great. If they shoot a nice deer, even better. But it's like, that's their fun, But when I go on those trips, more times than not, it's kind of that laser focus. Like, I'm really trying to test myself and get something done. So I don't know. It's probably different for everybody, but that's kind of the way I look at it.